strategic move that Eddie is making for AJ. Why are you not thinking, let's get him set up for kind of animal?
That was years and years and years ago. Like, Clarissa is a way different fighter from when she was back in.
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that will be joining me on our
defenses that she's had to have recently. You know, she's pulled people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the RoundTable about tribalism. I don't think tribalism is necessarily bad. I just don't think it has to be.
I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know. But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight.
You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis program. I'd love, that sounds like a...
I don't need you, you know, and PBC and others, in my opinion, it's like, oh, this is my guy. Like, there's a relationship.
Flat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then...
That would say, what do you mean by acting black? That's a fair question, but a participant of trash talk knows...
And they're announcing a fight 3-4 months from now. And he ain't going to fight. I bet you anything. He's not going to fight somebody as good as John Wright. Those joining me live and to those that will be joining me on the archive. This is the Roundtable episode 154. 154th edition. We're getting this fourth year of the Roundtable started now. So let's get this show on the road. We do have the nyfights.com crew on deck. We have Mario Mungia. He's also in Infighting Hub. So make sure you check that out. Check out his content. Gail in the building, of course. Catch her work on nyfights.com. The same with Ryan O'Hara here, a.k.a. Rye. Short for Rye. How's it going, guys? And of course, Woodsy should be joining us as well. And Joe Habib, partner in crime. All right. Catch the show, Ringside Reporter with Eric every Sunday and all that good stuff. And the Roundtable will be next week on his channel. Big shocker, 6-1. I'll be very transparent. My prediction for this fight was either Rocha by late stoppage or Rocha wide on the scorecards. It went nothing like that. I mean, he just plowed to Rocha, just dominated that fight, dropped him multiple times, and the ref stopped it, rightfully so. Joe Beeb, what you make of Santillan's performance, and what would you like to see next? I saw Bob Arum tweeted out when he arrived in Saudi, he just saw the fight, and they have big plans for him next year. So what do you think's next for him?
Wow. I don't know if he's ready to just jump right into like a title fight, because he won't be able to anyways because the titles are tied up. PBC guys are probably all tied up as well. It's tough, man. It's tough. He may have to take a stay busy fight, you know, against like someone like maybe I don't know, like a Kavaluskas or something like that. I don't know. Because everyone's, you know, you got Spence and Crawford tied up. You got the PBC guys who probably don't want to play ball. He'll probably have to take a stay busy fight before he positions himself into probably like a mandatory spot or something, because he's too much risk for too little reward at this point, in my opinion.
What you make of the performance is that
I was shocked.
Scenario.
Yeah, I was shocked. He was a huge underdog, but hindsight's 20/20. He had a lot of experience. Top Rank was starting to build him up a little bit, but I did not see that coming. Everything he hit Rocha with moved him. Like, Rocha could not get started in the fight. He was being pushed back. It's one thing when you want to step back, try to create space for yourself, set traps. That wasn't the case here. He was being pushed back, and he's not the type of guy that likes to fight off the back foot. He's a come forward guy. And he was just taken right out of his comfort zone, and there was just nothing he could do. He was overwhelmed right from the beginning, and he just could not get his offense started at all. And I was shocked. I was shocked. And even when he would land a shot, Santillan would walk right through it. So if you can't hurt Santillan, you know, when he's coming forward, cutting off the ring and putting on that pressure, then it's going to be a long night for you. And obviously it wasn't really a long night, but it was a long night while it lasted. Let's just put it that way.
Absolutely. It must have felt like a long night for Rocha either way. Mario, I mean, it seems like these top-ranked guys have been on a roll lately for some reason. I don't like that. They build them like granite over there. But Rocha, what you think of Rocha's performance, and what do you think is next for him next year?
Yeah, this is going to have to be a rebuild. I mean, he's talking about moving down to 140 now. I think that he understands the significance of this loss. I mean, the game in boxing is honestly sometimes very simple if the politics aren't super complicated. And it's, try to remain as undefeated as you can when your opportunity comes up. And that's kind of what Alexis Rocha has been doing, trying to stay ready. It could have been Crawford at one point. There were a bunch of different opportunities that were coming his way. And now those opportunities are essentially Santillan's. I think that Giovanni fought the perfect fight, and really, like, he did everything we've come to know of him. He made, I think, a very significant splash during the bubble, and he's kept that momentum, big wins during that time. And for him to come and not just win the fight, but win in the fashion that he did, he left with fans. He left with people who are gonna, say, "Oh, that guy Giovanni's fighting this weekend. I'm gonna watch him." Or if he's coming to town, they're buying tickets because he made some serious fans, and that includes my family that was watching along on Saturday night.
All right. And I apologize. I know I said Rocha, but yeah. Let me just say this about Rocha. I'm still a fan of Rocha. I don't know if it's going to be the same after that, but I think he'll be okay. I still want to see him fight, and I think he can still make some noise. I just think sometimes you run into a guy that's just a bad style for you, right? And that's what Santillan was. He was able to back up Rocha, and Rocha just wasn't the same when he was forced back. Gale, Santillan, shocking performance for most. How did you think this fight was going to go? But what was your prediction for this fight? And how did it compare to how it turned out? And what do you think is next for Santillan?
I felt it was going to be competitive. I've seen Santillan at his gym here in San Diego numerous times. He is just one of those steady as they go, never gets rattled, wonderful work ethic. He's come up from the club scene. He's been a Thompson boxing guy. He did it the hard way. He didn't have any Olympic glamour. He didn't have a big sponsor. He'd only recently been signed to Top Rank. So he's been under the radar. It is sort of amazing to think the guy has 30 fights on his record. I mean, most people don't know who he is, and most people still can't pronounce his name right. Santillan, Giovanni Santillan. Everybody, put some respect on his name for what he did. The smartest thing that he and his father trainer, Memo Santillan, did was add Robert Garcia to the mix. So Santillan was making that hell drive from San Diego up to Moreno Valley to Robert Garcia's gym twice a week. And Robert Garcia, I think, put the offensive rocket fuel behind Santillan that he needed. He did exactly the right thing. The game plan was on point. As somebody said earlier, credit to whoever just said, Rocha does not like fighting on the back foot. And most people don't come right at Rocha. And Santillan did. And I kept thinking to myself, where has this version of Giovanni been all this time? Because the tools were all there. He just wasn't pulling the right tools out of the toolkit. This time he did. He showed that he's got power. He is so calm and so perceptive in the ring. I think sometimes what happens with a fighter like that is they do only what they need to do to win. They're very economical about their energy output. Well, this time it was a lot more about not just a win, but a win that stuck in people's minds. And he delivered it. Bravo to him. He's already talked about his next fight being against somebody like a Mario Barrios. I think that's makeable. Both guys are sort of without dance partners. It's the right level. It's still a lot of questions about Barrios. And honestly, I think if his performance that we saw against Rocha was true to his current form, he's a problem for Barrios. So depends on how bold they are. If we tease it out a little further into the future, there's someone possibly like Imantas Stanionis. That was a makeable fight with another golden boy fighter Virgil Ortiz, but Stanionis has just been left sort of high and dry. Can Top Rank and PBC do business when it comes to Stanionis and Santillan? Possible. If he fights Thurman, like we all assume is going to happen, and it goes Stanionis' way, which I think it will, I think that's a nifty little matchup in the first quarter of next year. But Santillan does have options, and now Top Rank can really throw a little more muscle and interest behind him. They bought when his stock was down a little bit, and they've turned out to make a very good investment.
For sure. Shout out to the chat, by the way, guys. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Ryan, the fight that was stuck in my head before this fight, and the reason I was confident Rocha would win, and we probably shouldn't do this, but I did it, and I couldn't get that DeMarco fight out of my head, right? Like I was like, yeah, that dude ain't beating Rocha, but that dude, another dude showed up. So, what you make of the performance, and what do you foresee for Santillan next year?
Well, as Gail alluded to, I can see him fighting Mario Barrios. Like everyone else, I was shocked. I predicted that Rocha would win a close, unanimous decision, maybe slightly controversial, and there was nothing controversial about this other than the fact that Rocha got entirely dismantled. It seemed like from the opening bell, Rocha just didn't expect Santillan to come with that sort of authority. As soon as he got hit with that first right hand, you saw in his eyes like, whoa, I was not expecting this at all. And when he put up his gloves, it's like he wasn't moving. He wasn't moving his head. He wasn't moving his feet. And as you guys said, he's not really good at fighting on the back foot. At one point, I think he got hit with 5 hooks consecutively and didn't even block a single one of them. It just seemed like as soon as the first round started, it was just a matter of time before he got knocked out. And for Santillan's case, sorry about that, messed up my words there. I think him signing with Top Rank gave him that motivation. Maybe he had to talk with somebody on that team because, we've seen Top Rank, release prospects before. And I'm thinking in my head, maybe they told him, hey, show us something, or, you're not going to be here very long. And he's like, oh, shit. All right, well, I'll show you what I got. And he damn well did.
For sure. And like Gail said, it is Santillan. It's not Santillan. And
I'm so glad she said that because I was saying his name wrong for forever, and I never even knew that.
Joe, you're not the only one. I'm hearing people mispronounce his name, and actually I've even heard people calling Alexis Rocha. It's like, Rocha? Like rhymes with mocha? No, for God's sakes, man. Everyone needs to be able to speak a tiny bit of boxing Spanish, okay? I don't care who you are. Get your boxing Spanish in order.
And while we're at it.
Or ask, the one thing we can all do. Let me go on a tear here for 15 seconds.
Sure.
The one thing we can all get right, for Pete's sake, pronounce everyone's name right. There are so many fighters' names mispronounced. And if you don't know, ask. If you don't know, go to YouTube, watch one of the professional announcers pronounce their name. If it's Ray, if it's Jimmy,
they were pronouncing his name wrong too, though, Gail. They were pronouncing his name wrong too, the announcer.
Well, shame on them.
I don't know about that. No. They did fine. That's the least we owe any of these guys is, come on, get their names right.
Well, while we're at it, it's Tszyu, not Tszyu. Okay, for everybody out there. Like
it's Jorge Linares, not Jorge, like Eddie Hearn was calling him.
Well, that's a British thing, right? They botch those names, and sometimes because of any Spaniard fighters, they get away with it. But
I remember growing up and
George Foreman calling Manny Pacquiao Manny Pacquiao and Manny Pacquiao when he was fighting with Waba.
Yeah, look, I remember growing up in they would call Chavez, like Chevy, like Chavez.
That's another British pronunciation.
I'm like,
but I'm speaking strictly to my fellow Americanos. Get the damn names right. If you're in the boxing business, get just
to give everybody some like right here. It says congratulations, Santillan. The double L in Spanish is not pronounced like an L. in English. And that's why people say it that way. They say Santillan, right?
Excuse me.
And the problem also is
if you know how to say yo-yo, you could say Santillan.
Well,
Like, you know what I mean?
and if you know any Portuguese, the double L's are not the Y. They are the L. So, yeah. But you know what? It takes you 30 seconds to find
Yeah, but
out.
the Portuguese ain't doing nothing in boxing anyway. So
Right. Well, you know.
I mean,
but hey, we have that in the fishing industry here in San Diego, so it messes some people up.
yeah, for sure. Well, look, let's go ahead and proceed here. We have a pretty good matchup this week. It's going under the radar because of all the attention that the Fury Ngannou fight's getting, but I think O'Shaquie Foster against Rocky Hernandez is a really good fight. It's a good style matchup, an aggressive guy against a boxer. I think those are some of the best fights personally, at least intriguing. A lot to look at here. Let's start with you, Ryan. Who do you favor in this fight? Break it down for us. How do you see this fight going?
Oh, I'm actually excited for this fight. They both have contrasting styles, and they're both good fighters. Rocky Hernandez, has one blemish on his resume, being that he got knocked out by Roger Gutierrez in 2019. But he's improved significantly since. I like the way he moves his head and the way he patiently stalks his opponents. And O'Shaquie Foster is a good boxer too. He's got a good jab. He's got very smart. He's got good ring IQ. So I think it's going to be a very technical fight. I actually wrote a piece for New York Fights. I don't know if it's out yet, but we spoke about how he thinks the fight's going to go. He actually thinks he's going to dominate Rock. He's going to come out and just dominate him. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's actually going to be a close fight. I see Foster coming out with with the win. I'm a little bit concerned about Hernandez's defense still. When he fought Gutierrez, Gutierrez hit him with that first right hand, and I think Hernandez, he felt like he needed to respond. So it's kind of like when he got hit with that shot, he was like, "Oh wow, that hurt. I'm going to show him what I can hit him with." And then next thing you know, he gets hit with 3 or 4 more punches, and he's knocked out for the first time in his career. And I think he's learned from that situation. All right, if he gets you, just accept it. Take a step back and try to work from there. Trying to be the hero didn't work for him in that scenario. So I see this fight being technical, and with Foster coming out with a unanimous decision victory.
All right. Okay. All right. Mario Mungia. Who's going to get this fight? Who's going to win this fight, in your opinion, and why?
Listen, I think first of all, it didn't get proper build. I think, the problem with having mega fights between two different genres is that it saps the attention from, the guys that are putting in the grind, in the sport. And I think that these are two guys that you could kind of label that, right? Foster, he's been around, and the knock on him is that he hasn't produced a lot of exciting fights. The knock on him is that, he a lot of fans say that, think he gets boring and things like that. I think this is a good matchup for him to, really exploit those criticisms, because he can stay within himself, right? Not fall outside his, fight script, and still, push the action. Rocky's going to be there. He's going to be there. And so Foster's going to have the ability to do a lot in there and show a lot. And if he can come out of this unscathed, if he can come out of this with a really good performance, I think that it could be a launching pad for him. The Vargas fight was huge, but what it was that proving he could beat somebody. He could beat somebody. I don't want to use the word elite, but you know what I mean? Like upper level. Now that he's proven that, he has to prove that he can be exciting. And I know that shouldn't be part of it, but it is. I mean, that's just the, nature of the game. Everybody remembers, the way that Guillermo Rigondeaux was, criticized when he used to fight on HBO, and it's just a part of the business. So I think that's the most important thing going in. And yes, I did wear the DJ Screw shirt, because he is from Houston, Foster. So, we're repping Texas out here.
All right. Well, there you go. There you go. Gail, this is an intriguing matchup. How excited are you for this from a scale of 1 to 10? And who do you think is going to win?
You know, I'm a little more excited than I thought I'd be. Maybe a 7.9. I'm not going to say an 8. You know, I distinctly remember Hernandez's first fight in the United States. He had been talked up like crazy. He was 27-0, and he made his first appearance on a card at the infamous Dignity Health Sports Park. At the time, I think it was still StubHub. We're being told he was the next thing out of Mexico. This Mexican Rock. He was named after Rocky. Big deal. And whoops. He lost. He took the L when he was supposed to make his big American debut. So that's a problem. He had to go back, regroup. He has been slowly climbing his way back up the ranks, cautiously, very cautiously, taking fights in Mexico. He's himself relocated to the United States to train. So now he's ready to dip his toe back in the water. He did have one other fight in the U.S. He was actually part of the Ring City project for a little while, for a minute, and got back on the win there. I mean, he had been tearing through opponents until he took that shocker loss. And he has been quietly tearing through opponents, but he certainly hasn't faced anyone of the opposition level of O'Shaquie Foster. So now we're going to see what he's learned from the loss and the comeback. And if he's done the right things and rebuild himself, I think he has a very good chance of taking Foster out. Foster needs to be prepared for him. But if he hasn't, I'm not sure he gets 3 strikes and you're out. I think it's 2 strikes and you get to go back to doing journeyman fights in Mexico if you, at the very least, don't put on a really good show. But I really do think it's going to take a win. So this is a must for him to get back on the radar where he thought he was going to be in 2019, takes the L, and then has the pandemic to deal with. So he has really had to swim his way back up to the surface. And let's hope it did him some good. Foster, he's got 2 L's on his record too. And unfortunately, in today's environment, a third would also really do some damage to his upward trajectory. So this is an interesting fight under the radar. And I am a little surprised for that reason Foster was willing to take the fight in Mexico. But it was makeable there. The money was there. The Mexican fans are absolutely very much behind Hernandez. So see what happens.
All right.
Oh, and D-Style, if I could make one point I forgot to mention. Foster did say that they were supposed to fight in the summer. And since his claim is that, obviously Hernandez is his mandatory challenger, so he had to face Hernandez. And they were supposed to fight in the summer, and the WBC allowed Hernandez to take a stay busy fight first, which forced Foster to be out for longer than he wanted to. So he's a little bit, I would say he's probably slightly upset about that, but he said he didn't take it personally. And so here we are.
Because I think he was planning something too, if I recall. And then that whole mess happened and they weren't going to let anybody, they basically put their foot down is what it seemed. It's funny how they pick and choose when they do that.
That's interesting. Joe, there's a lot of rivalries in boxing, and one of them is USA versus Mexico, right? So there's a lot right in here in terms of that, but there's also even a longer rivalry, which is that aggressive brawler against the boxer and the mover, and that's what we have here. And those are some of the most intriguing fights for me. How do you see this matchup, and who do you think is going to win?
This is a razor close fight. The odds are almost a pick 'em. Hernandez is a plus 135 and Foster's a minus 175, and they're closing. So there's some people that believe in Hernandez. Someone contacted me, Chakal, remember Chakal, who used to call into the show a lot on Sunday, and he messaged me on WhatsApp. He said Hernandez is going to knock him out. He's very confident in saying so too. He was very adamant about it. Mario made a good point about Foster. He's not the most exciting guy in the world. He likes to fight at a slower pace. He likes to be the counterpuncher. He likes space. He's not trying to set the world on fire. He's just trying to win. He's going to win the way he wants to win. But Hernandez is interesting because he's going to force the pace. He's going to fight a fast-paced fight. He's going to come forward. He's going to try and close that distance and collapse that pocket and cut off the ring. And he's not looking to land the perfect shot. He'll just blanket you. He'll hit you on the arms, the shoulders. He'll just force the openings. He doesn't care. He's going to make you, have to fend him off. And in the process of fending him off, there's going to be some openings there, right? Because you can't be on the defensive the whole time. You can't have your hands in your pockets when a guy's just blanketing you with pressure. So Foster's got to be really on point with his counter punches here when Hernandez comes forward. So this is an interesting fight. Hernandez can punch. Foster's not a huge puncher. I do think Hernandez is very, very, very live here. Something tells me I'm going to go with Hernandez here. I think he's going to get a late stoppage. I just think he has it in him. Okay. I think he could do it because Foster's going to be forced to fight a fight. I believe that he's not comfortable fighting, right? He's not going to have the time to react. He's not going to have that comfort of, I got the speed advantage. I got this, that. When you got a guy who's just relentless and who's got a gas tank like Hernandez, he's going to keep coming forward. He can definitely win this fight. It's in Mexico. I mean, the stage is set. I'm going to go with the upset here. I think he's very live.
Beeb's doing it because he's mad he missed the odds for last week.
What was that?
To pay for the boat for Santillan.
Oh no!
You're picking the Mexican underdog this week. No,
I don't know.
It's good odds though. You're right. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pugilat Zahn, I appreciate the support. He says props to Foster for taking tough fight in Mexico.
Very.
Look, it's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be a taxing fight. I do think Foster wins a decision, though. That's what I think. I think he'll win by it. I got it like 8-4.
That's a popular opinion. That's the popular opinion.
Like 8-4-ish.
I like that.
I like that.
I like that. 8-4.
I mean, you can't really go wrong with any pick. I mean, if you pick Hernandez by knockout, I can see that. If you pick Foster by decision, I can see that too. It's just one of those things.
Can Hernandez win a decision, Ryan?
I don't see Hernandez winning a decision.
Me neither.
I mean,
I don't see
Foster knocking him out.
I mean, I've seen worse decisions. I mean, like
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
I'm just saying.
It is
in Mexico.
It is in Mexico. Yeah, there you go.
Maybe Hernandez does win a controversial decision. He's in Mexico.
Maybe it is not the fight.
Hernandez is a good call,
And the WBC silver title is in play. I take that back. Not the silver, the world super featherweight title.
I mean,
Yes.
Let me ask Ryan.
The one he took from Vargas.
I'm not saying that there might be, somebody pressing their weight on the scale a little bit, but just saying.
Let me ask Ryan. Let me ask Ryan a quick question. Do you think if it could be possible, right? This could be kind of like a quantity versus quality type thing, where when you're going to see a guy coming forward, and there's going to be a guy coming backward. There's going to be a judge or two that's going to like the aggressive style, that's going to like, the volume, the output, may not be landing everything, but because he's throwing so much and some stuff's going to get through, and Foster's not a big puncher, unless Foster's like snapping his head back and really getting those eye-catching shots, there could be a scenario here where the volume could outweigh, the precision shots from Foster's. It all depends on what a judge likes here. That's why this fight is incredibly intriguing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with you, because if Foster, let's say, outboxes him for 80 to 85% of the round, and Hernandez lands two big shots that move Foster's head back, one judge might say, "Oh, we'll check that round for Hernandez." You never know. I mean, in boxing, anything could happen.
Yeah,
it is a very intriguing fight. It is in Mexico, so I'm not going to rule out a possible decision for Hernandez. And Who knows? I mean, he may just legitimately beat him like by decision. So we got to tune in. We got to watch, especially if we get some knockdowns or something. And not to mention the crowd factor, and not to mention the judges may like the aggressiveness as well. So we'll see. I think Foster has to be on point. His punches need to stand out. When he makes him miss, that needs to stand out. And we'll see how that goes. But shout out to the Shoe Shine, Lisa Bales in the building, all of you guys. Let's go ahead and proceed here. Rumors are that Canelo could be facing Jaime Mungia. I question those rumors a lot myself personally, but whatever. Okay, it may happen in May of next year. That's very intriguing because we would see Oscar De La Hoya and Canelo in the same building again for the press conferences, etc. But nonetheless, and of course, the rumor also said that it'll be Benavidez in September. Assuming this happens, is this a fight schedule for Canelo that you could get behind? Let's start with you, Mario.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. 100%. Listen, Canelo, for those who, don't have the most history watching the sport and, are newer fans, he is the best model of a champion face of boxing we've had since I've been watching the sport of boxing. The ones before the Mayweathers, the Pacquiaos, the De La Hoyas, and I'm not going to lump them all in together, but, specifically Mayweather and Pacquiao, they started this trend where it was like the richest fighters in the sport are going to fight, fewer times a year. They're not going to test themselves as much. They're just going to take the A-side fights. And listen, that's boxing. And we've seen that. Canelo's gone beyond that. Okay. So for everybody to, kind of hound him and hammer him on this Benavidez fight, like, do you know how long we were waiting for Mayweather Pacquiao? Do you know how long we've been waiting for Joshua Wilder, Fury, Usyk? I mean, all these fights that don't happen, like Canelo's made those fights. He fought the Golovkins 3 times. He fought Cotto. He fought Laura when nobody said he would. All these types of Laura when nobody said he would. Trout, same thing. Okay, all these fights that he's taken in the past and what he's doing now. And first of all, the Jaime Mungia fight isn't a bad fight. I'm not asking this rhetorically, but I am asking, I guess, rhetorically. I would rather see him fight Mungia than Maul. Anybody tells me different, they're caping. I'm sorry, they're Maul fans, because you cannot tell me what we've seen from Mungia. He doesn't at least deserve to be in that fight. And what have we seen from Maul? Nothing, not a thing. And as far as this fight goes, and as far as information, real quick, I just want to say this. Listen, this is getting weird now. Okay. They've announced that Canelo is going to be fighting on Showtime pay-per-view, even though Showtime is out of the boxing biz. Okay. They've announced that he's going to stay. That means that currently PBC is shopping a deal that doesn't have the richest fight in sport, the richest fighter in the sport, Canelo. Okay. That's a tough sell. That's like WWE trying to sell their Monday Night Raw without Roman Reigns. You know what I mean? It's a tough pitch. So the fact that he's still not like, oh, I'm going to be PBC no matter what, he's trying to stay with Showtime, that does tell me that there might be some, cracks in the, plans, and he might be willing to say, you know what, I'll take on Mungia, whatever, I'm not going to fight Maul. I'm not going to do what PBC wants me to do on Amazon Prime, whatever. I don't know, but all I know is that disinformation campaigns have been used by promoters this year so much. Managers, people giving info to journalists and reporters, and because they know their friends and that's their sources, and they're putting it out. And we've seen, a colleague of ours that we all know, who put out that Canelo was fighting somebody, and it ended up not being true. And it was hard for him, and it was tough, and he got ridiculed. So it's a tough biz, but disinformation campaigns, I don't know if this is one we're looking at with Mungia Canelo.
Okay, so you like Mungia Benavidez next year? You're
I do.
In line with that. Okay, all right, cool. Gail, is that something you could get behind? If that is what he's going to do next year?
Mexican on Mexican violence, sign me up every time. Thank you, Mario. Yeah, can't beat it. Can't beat it. I'm sure Canelo heard the comments about his beatdown of Charlo. There is no reason for him to now go and beat up his brother. I think he recognizes there is a decided lack of enthusiasm for that. And he had to have seen Mungia tangling with Derevyanchenko, somebody who I'm sure Canelo feels that he would have no problem walking through. But if Mungia struggled that much against Derevyanchenko at 168, I'm sure he's thinking, he'll make for a good fight. It'll be exciting. He will at least engage, which is its antidote to the stink Charlo left. So the fans will be pleased. And it's a great tune-up for Canelo going into a fight against Benavidez, a guy who's a bit similar in size and style for him. So he gets a dress rehearsal against Mungia. We have, many of us have questioned Canelo's choices in the past, his game plans. He's almost always right. He bit off a little more than he could chew against Bivol, but looking back at his career path, he has always gone down the right road. So I'm all about it, and I'm all about anything that improves on that last fight. Please give us some activity in the ring and somebody who will actually step up to you and punch back, for God's sake.
I mean, all right. Let me preface this by saying this, babe. And then it's the same question here, but let me just say this. What has Mungia done, like, to get me excited for a Canelo fight? Like, I don't know. I'm not excited about a Mungia fight. I'm just not. Like that. That's just me. Am I missing something here, babe, or what? Like,
I'm gonna.
But if he fights Benavidez, it makes it worth it, obviously. But how do you feel about that 2-fight package next year?
I'm going to defend Mungia, but I'm also going to say something probably that a lot of people won't like. The thing about Mungia, and I think Gail hit it right on the head. He's an exciting fighter. He's like, no matter who he fights, it's going to be an exciting fight. Has Mungia ever been in a boring fight? No. Never. Right? He's got an exciting, fan-friendly TV style type. Style. That's just how he is. He's
an action star, like God.
He's an action fighter, and he's a big guy, and he's got a lot of stamina, and he doesn't really slow down. He's gonna throw punches from the opening bell to the ending bell. I don't think the fight happens though. I'm not confident at all the fight happens. I think it's kind of fake news. I think Benavidez is next. I'm pretty sure Benavidez is going to be next. Mauricio Suleiman said he's going to order the mandatory in March. He's already setting the stage, and I think Canelo, after fighting John Ryder and then fighting Jamel, the type of pattern he's shown us, he'll do like two kind of not extremely difficult fights, and then the third one is usually the more difficult fight. It's usually the harder fight, right? I don't think he's going to give us three kind of stay busy fights in a row. And I don't mean to disrespect Mungia, but I just, Canelo's here and Mungia's, he's not there, right? Yeah. But I don't think that fight's happening. I've even heard Eddie Hearn say that they're trying to have him fight Mungia, trying to make Mungia Berlanga. I think that fight would happen before Mungia versus Canelo.
I agree with you on that.
And Mungia didn't look great in his last fight. It was very entertaining. Once again, it was an entertaining fight. He had that knockdown. I think it was in the 12th round, which allowed him to win the fight. I had it even in rounds, and he won the fight on my card because of the knockdown. And that was a dramatic finish from him. I don't think the fight happens. If it did happen, and I knew I was getting Benavidez next, I don't know. I wouldn't be too mad about it, but I'm not excited about him versus Mungia, if I'm being honest. But like I said, I don't think it happens. I think Benavidez is definitely next, in my opinion. I really do.
Okay. All right. Now, sometimes if a fighter ultimately gives us what we want, we tend to say, all right, I'll give him that gimme. So if it is in that way, if it's Mungia then Benavidez, would you be all right? Is that something you could get behind?
Yeah. I mean, well, here's the thing. The same thing with Fury versus Ngannou. I've literally heard people say, people literally said this to me. I'm not lying. Well, I'm going to buy Fury versus Ngannou now because I know he's fighting Usyk next. They literally told me that.
Okay.
So, you know,
I got it.
sometimes if there is the light at the end of the tunnel, people will be more accepting.
There you go. Ryan, how do you feel about that if that were to happen, right? I know people saying that he feels that's fake news. I'm kind of leaning that way myself. But if that were to happen, if it's Mungia and then, Benavidez, if it's that 1-2 punch next year, is that something you get behind?
I don't mind it. Like you guys have mentioned, Jaime Mungia is an exciting fighter, but as far as the fight goes, I think it would be a quote unquote exciting fight until it's not. I think Canelo would knock out Mungia. I just don't think he's on the level of Canelo. But, Mexico versus Mexico, that's something that could generate sales. And I think that's basically what the fight is. It's a moneymaker because, look back at Canelo and Chavez. Did people actually think that was going to be a competitive fight? Hell no. But it made a lot of damn money.
It did $1 million buys.
But like Joe, I don't think that fight's going to happen. I think that's kind of fake news as well. I've heard that it's actually more likely that, maybe Edgar Berlanga will get a shot at Canelo at some point. Yeah, and Canelo would knock him out too. That's even less competitive than the Mungia fight. Obviously, like most boxing fans, I'm pretty impatient. I just want the best fighting the best all the time, which never happens. So I would love for Canelo to just go straight into the Benavidez fight. Honestly, that would be my choice. Just fight Benavidez. But if we have to do, Canelo Mungia and then the Benavidez fight, no big deal. Like you said, D-Style, we waited what, 5-6 years for Mayweather Pacquiao. We needed Well, you know what? I'm kind of sick of waiting. I was 15 years old when we were supposed to see Mayweather and Pacquiao fight the first time. I had never kissed a girl at that point. And then when the fight actually happened, I was in college and, things in college happened. And we were supposed to get Spence Crawford at some point. And hell, I'm 30 years old now. Like, what? I'm going to have to wait till 40 for Joshua to fight Wilder? This is getting ridiculous.
Shit.
Don't worry, you're going to kiss that girl one day. I know it. No, I'm just kidding.
But TF gave you Usyk in 18 months. Tyson Fury.
I will say this.
18 months. TF.
Well, check it out. I will say this. For a while now, do you guys remember when Canelo did that interview and he said he doesn't really want to? I don't really want to fight Mexican fighters. I represent Mexico, and people really got on him for that. Like, how can you say that? Did you hear? He doesn't want to fight the Mexican. So all those people that were complaining and bitching and making a big deal about that,
they're still gonna bitch about it.
You do not get to complain about him fighting Mungia because Mungia and Benavidez were the only two dudes, and Zurdo were the only three dudes you could really mention that he was not, leaving out of the sweepstakes because they're Mexican in some way, shape, or fashion, right? So I just want to remind those people that were saying that you don't get to say anything anymore because he's going to give you what you want. You really wanted him to fight a Mexican national. Well, now you're going to get it if it happens. All right. It was so important to you, and now you will get it. All right. But look, if the light at the end of the tunnel is Benavidez, then I'm for it. But if he's going to fight like Berlanga and then Mungia, or like Mungia then Berlanga, or like Jamal and then like Mungia, or if it's anything like that, I'm not going to like it. And I'll hate to do it, but I'm going to have to be that negative dude that's bringing down the fight. Like, I'm just going to be that guy. It is what it is. But I'm behind it. Now, look, we're good on time. So I want to bring this up. So I'll go to you first, Ryan. So Keyshawn, they just overturned his decision. Texas Commission overturned it to a no contest. I'm reading because of, and you tweeted about it. I'll let you explain to the audience what's going on with that whole situation.
Keyshawn tested positive for weed. This is what I was told by multiple sources.
Christ.
It's fucking stupid if you ask me. I'm definitely anti-weed regulations, but you also have to understand the rules. So if he did stop ahead of time, he probably should have stopped for sooner. And if maybe he had no idea what the rules were, and if that's the case, someone on his team should have been there that knows him, is very close to him. Like, hey, you should cut that out because we're fighting in Texas, which is one of the few states that still, punishes for weed. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. But the one thing that really, rubs me the wrong way is that Alicia Baumgartner tested positive for 2 steroids. She hasn't faced punishment yet. And Keyshawn tested, he fought like a week and a half ago, and he's already suspended for 90 days. Fucking joke.
Very, very interesting for sure. Gail, any thoughts about that?
Yeah, people need to recognize there are still states in the U.S. where recreational weed consumption is illegal, and Texas is one of them. So the commission has the right to test for it and bounce him for it. So, and any of us who saw the fight, it was a lackluster performance by Davis. It was. He got the win, but I mean, he eked out the win. Well, maybe now we know why. There are also rumblings about Davis and his mindset, and that he's not in a good place, and that whether that has anything to connect to, a little bit of self-medication, I don't know. I have no idea. There are clearly some concerns about him. So in the long run, taking a little time off might not be the worst thing that ever happened to him. I mean, if he needs to get his act together, now is the time, when he's young, when, it won't hurt him. It's not in the height of his career. He needs to get a handle on whatever he needs to get a handle on, if what the discussion I'm hearing is correct. So, but yeah, that's the reasons you're supposed to have a manager who keeps up on this, look it up, or at least if, and it's possible he didn't let the manager know. You need to keep a handle on your guys and gals, folks. You do. This is a bad look for a guy that Top Rank has really been throwing a lot of promotional weight behind. They are Top Rank's management is a far bigger problem for Keyshawn Davis than the Texas Commission.
Yeah, I think though.
So,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, listen, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
I just want to make this point, because y'all are absolutely right. He's an adult man, human being in his profession, and he needs to be professional and act accordingly. And the rest of us with jobs have protocols, have things we have to adhere by. I just want to make one small point, and I'm not trying to be like the boxing Joe Rogan or anything, but the fact that these things that cannabis is still a banned substance, I just don't get it. And look, I know you had some shows in the past about people trying to make the argument that CBD can be used as a performance enhancer, and there are painkiller aspects to it and there are energy aspects to it. And so I get that. I do. But, weighing it against what we're talking about, injuries, what would injuries in sports over the last 20 years lead to? It would lead to people with serious opioid addictions. Okay. So at the end of the day, if these guys are going through pain, whether that's mental, physical, emotional, it does not matter. At the end of the day, if they're going to cope with anything, cannabis is a far safer substance, and the science shows it, than alcohol, opioids, barbiturates, all those other things. So, it's these guys got to make it legal at some point.
Here's the thing, guys. He was going to win the fight, but then he got high. You know what I mean? I'm saying they removed his win from Box Rec, and I know why. Why, man? Because he got high. I just want to say this. Look, I'm on board with you should know the rules. But something it's like I still remember the Casimiro thing when he was using a sauna. I get he's supposed to know the rules, but I mean, should that even be a thing? That's just what I'm asking. It's just, I don't know. Like smoking weed, I don't know if that's a performance enhancer at all. That's just my opinion. But I get he broke the rules. But the bigger question is, should that be something we should be testing for? And I think it's a waste of resources, a waste of time. Let's test for the PEDs. Okay, let's put all our resources into that. Is what I say. But Joe, what's your breaking news reaction to this?
I just think it's ridiculous, to be honest with you. I mean,
is he hanging out with Bruce Goss or what?
Bruce, shout out Bruce.
I just think we've come a long way in this country, not only in the country but in the world. And I just think there's so many states now where it's in my state it's legal. I don't smoke weed. I do know I have friends that take edibles, and they can even get edibles from like your doctor and stuff. Will refer you to take edibles if you're having problems with anxiety or you can't sleep and stuff. I know people who do that. I understand it's the rules, but for me, I just don't understand it. I can't. It doesn't register with me why this would still be on the list. That's just my opinion.
If anything, they could explain why he looks so good. My opinion.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing. Some people, it's so variable with weed. Some people say it gives them anxiety. Some people say it makes them sleepy. It makes them dumb. Some people say it makes them sluggish. It's again, it's so variable. It's not like with caffeine. Most people who take caffeine, you're going to get the jolt. Certain drugs, it's existential. Whatever. It's going to be what it's going to be. But with weed, it's whatever, right? You don't know. Mm-hmm. You don't know.
100%. Pugilat Zine, does the zone become the face of boxing in 2024? Maybe. But look, man, right now it's got to be on. I think ESPN Plus is kicking their ass. It's my opinion. Especially when you compare the price, what we pay for it, the bang for our buck. That's my opinion, of course, but I hope they both succeed, and I hope they both give us great fights, quite frankly. But El Jefe, Canelo versus David, the big Mexican showdown. Look, I want that fight. I hope we'll get that fight. And that's a fight where I go in there picking Canelo to win, but I'm also not sure. And I need to see it to know. And that's how I want to see that fight, quite frankly. We're going to go ahead and proceed here, unless anybody wanted to add anything before we proceed. All right. Look. For Tim Tszyu's manager, a little birdie, got a statement from Glen Jennings. Ryan Hart also wrote an article about it on NYFights.com. You guys go ahead and check that out. Cheap plug. All right. Tim Tszyu's manager stated that Tim Tszyu will be returning to the ring. The plan is to return February or March, and it will be stateside. It will be in the United States. That is the plan as we speak. For those that don't know, of course, it's Sunday afternoon when Tim Tszyu fights in Australia. They've been doing that for his last 3 fights. So the fights could air prime time in the United States. So they've already conditioned people in Australia to watch Tim Tszyu on Sunday afternoon. So even if he fights stateside, well, they're going to have the pay-per-view Sunday afternoon over there. They're already conditioned to buy him at that time. I think that's always been the plan. What fight would you like to see for Tim Tszyu? Gail, we'll start with you.
Well, I think the one that we all would like to see was the long-delayed fight with Charlo, but, there's a lot of shine off that fight after his recent performance against Canelo. I think it's still worth having because he didn't put up his belts against Canelo. He's still got them, except for the one WBO belt that Tim now has. So I still think that is a very worthwhile fight. I think what we're going to get is Erickson Lubin, and I don't completely hate it. It's a worthy fight. Let's see Tszyu tested against somebody where we have a measuring stick against performances against Lubin by other names in the division. At least it gives us a point of comparison. I think at that point, once we've got that one or the other out of the way and we see where Tszyu's going, it's very possible he decides to move up because the lane at middleweight is wide open. There are no heroes in the middleweight division right now. Janibek, he's a fine performer. He's perfectly adequate. He's got all the skills. He probably at this point has to be considered the number one guy in the division. But it's like dating someone who's perfectly nice, nothing wrong with them, and there's just zero chemistry. I feel nothing coming off Janibek when we watch him. It's just, there's no thrill there. Tim Tszyu, on the other hand, a must-see fighter. Love his attitude. He is no nonsense. A friend of mine describes him like being the CEO of a tech company, just bowling right through things. Laser focused, and I don't think that's wrong. He's nothing but good for the sport, and I think he's willing to fight, stay busy. I say we tease that storyline out as far as it will go.
Man, that feels like what my ex told me. You know what I mean? That's great. But
well, and there's always that letting somebody down easy. But no, Janibek is just like, there's.
It's not you. It's
could
me.
level. It's not you. It's me.
Let's just be
no,
friends.
you could level.
Let's just be friends.
I mean, if you're looking for criticism of him, he wins. He gets a job done. His skills are fine, but the parts do not add up to the sum of the whole that makes me excited about seeing his name on the docket on the weekend.
Joe, let me direct it to you this way. I know that's the plan, right? Do you think this is a long-term thing? Do you think he's going to be fighting in the United States long-term?
Yeah.
Or will he eventually go back to Australia? What do you think?
I can see him reeling off like 4 or 5 or 6 fights in the United States. I think he's going to do what his dad did. His dad did the same thing. He came over and fought exclusively in America for a while. A lot of fighters do that. I'm not saying he'll never go back to Australia, but I think he'll go on a little bit of a tour here, a little bit of a run. The Charlo fight, Gil's right, 100%. There's a lot of luster off that fight. It would be awesome if he could fight Crawford. That's a good fight. That's an excellent fight. After Crawford gets through with the Spence fight, I was hoping the Spence fight wasn't going to happen, but it looks like it's going to happen from what we're being told. Charlo, I don't even know when he's going to fight again, because if you go by his behavioral patterns, both of them, they take long periods of time in between fights. He just got a big payday, and it's highly questionable whether or not he's even going to come back down to 154. He may go right to 160. And I'm not 100% sure he wants to fight Tim Tszyu either. So I could see those fights getting scattered. And I agree with Gail on another point she made. I think Lubin is next. I think that's a no-brainer right now. Sebastian Fondor possibly, but I don't think Fondor would want that fight right now. I don't think his management would want that fight for him right now, coming off that knockout loss. I like I said, I think it's going to be Lubin, and it's going to be a great fight. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting test. Lubin is a good fighter. He's kind of hot and cold sometimes, and Tim is a very surgical, heavy-handed guy with his punches. He's a sharp puncher, so he could get Lubin out of there, or Lubin, could pull a rabbit out of the hat and take him some rounds. But nevertheless, Tim Tszyu, I think, will fight Lubin next, and I think he'll win that fight.
All right, Ryan, do you agree it's Lubin, right? And further from that, do you foresee Tim Tszyu staying in the U.S. for a long time, or do you think they'll be like, maybe it makes more sense to go to Australia? Like, what do you think is going to happen in the near and further future for Tim Tszyu?
He's going to fight Tyson Fury next. No, I'm just kidding. I definitely see him fighting Erickson Lubin.
He has a better shot than Ngannou.
Lubin likes to come forward. Tszyu likes to come forward. It's going to be a good fight. I think Tszyu is going to stop Lubin around the 7th or 8th round. I just think, like I said, Lubin likes to come forward, but he kind of leaves his face open, and I think he's going to get busted up. I think it's going to get stopped on cuts or swelling. either or. But Tim is a burgeoning star, and I think he's going to be around for a long time. I see him eventually moving up to 160 pounds, and I'm not quite sure if the Mel fight happens. You know, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm actually slightly worried about Jamel. You know, he wasn't like himself, and you know, it's interesting because the whole lion, what was it? Lions only is that what he said all the time? Yeah. He wasn't himself throughout that entire, you know, training camp for Canelo, or even during fight week. You know, he's usually just, you know, I wouldn't say out of control, but he's very just, you know, exhilarated. We didn't see that same Jermell Charlo that we've seen throughout his entire career. Where was he? It's like he was a nice guy, but it was interesting. I've never seen Jermell that mellow during, you know, a fight buildup. It just seems like he wasn't there. Like something was bothering him, and you know, looking at his twin brother, I don't know. Maybe there's something that's going on there that we don't know. But I hope he's doing okay.
All right. Mario Mungia, Tim Tszyu, he wants to take over the U.S. It's a U.S. takeover. Do you believe that? Do you think it'll be a long-term thing here?
Absolutely. I think that Gail or Beeb, one of y'all said it perfectly. I think just like his dad, you know, I think he has the chance to make a stable presence, more than stable. You know, we've seen guys come from where he's from and just not be able to tip over that commercial scale. Even with wins over major stars, they still never really panned out to be commercial successes in the United States. But I think Tim Tszyu offers a lot of things in the ring and outside the ring that kind of check those boxes. And, you know, as far as who he fights next, I think you're all right. I think Lubin is more than likely, you know, but the Jesus fight would have been great. But, you know, if not him, maybe they go the Mel route, who knows? But I think there's still a lot of reasons to stay at 154, even though Gail's absolutely right. Middleweight's wide open right now. There is this thing that's happening at junior middleweight. You know, Stanionis, Thurman are supposed to be fighting at 154 in a pay-per-view December 9th. You know, we'll see if that ends up happening or not. But, you know, there's that fight. You know, Danny doesn't beat Lara. Danny's always there. You know, these are big names is what I'm trying to get to. Virgil Ortiz is supposed to come back in January. That's the date that's floating around for him. And, you know, he's a guy who, how is he going back to 147? I mean, you know, if you had to ask me, I doubt it. And it seems no, and everybody's shaking their head no. So, you know, that's another star-studded type of fight you could get from him. Spence, you know, where does he go after the Crawford fight? If that, you know, fight does absolutely, you know, materialize like it seems it will, like all these names are starting to come in at the right moment as Tim Tszyu is about to make his, you know, American stance and plant his flag. If he wanted a chance to be a star in the United States, the future is lining up in a way that he could very well achieve what he wants, and all he's got to do is take the fights and win.
No, for sure. Look, go ahead.
I was gonna say, did anyone think that Lubin beat Ramos?
No,
I didn't think so.
I did not either.
I didn't see him winning. However, I just wanted
to check because I would make sure.
But let me give you my. I did give Lubin the last 4 rounds. I had it really close.
I think he definitely came back in the fight. I don't know how many rounds
I did have it close. I had it 7.
Close.
I had it 7-5, but I still think there was just too many in the bank for him to even with losing those last 4. I still think he had too many in the bank. In my opinion, anyways.
I was disappointed. I mean,
I think I would have been more excited for Ramos.
Absolutely.
Ramos,
yeah, it's a better fight. Ramos versus Tszyu is a like you said, Mario. That's why I mentioned that, because you brought up Ramos, and I was just saying to myself, does anyone on this panel think that Ramos lost that fight?
It is a shame, because like Ramos has that win over Mendoza, so it would have been a perfect
lineup so well. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, but look, as I mentioned earlier, because I'm seeing a lot of like people saying, channels on here, people in the media saying things like, well, Tim Tszyu should stay in Australia. He's the money man over there. Everyone should go and fight him over there. And there's 2 things people are missing here. One, Tim Tszyu wants to fight in America. Like it's hard to like tell him, no, don't do it. Like it's what he wants to do. Like that's number one, right? And they already have a plan. So if the argument is he's a pay-per-view star over there, they're still going to buy the pay-per-view over there. Like, it's still going to happen. They're still buying the pay-per-views over there on Sunday afternoon. They've already conditioned people over there to do it. They've tried it 3 times there, and 3 times I think they feel very confident. Yeah, we're ready to go to America. We got the Australian money. Now there's a sacrifice with the gate, but I mean, with the right opponent, they could still get a pretty decent gate here, in my opinion. Not to mention, some Australian fans may travel, etc. So we might see. We might. I'm not comparing, but it could be something similar to maybe Ricky Hatton, where the countrymen travel over here. Maybe not to that degree. That I've never seen something like Ricky Hatton, but like if it's a quarter of that, that would be amazing. I will say that.
I just think that the market. You could say what you want about how boxing's not as popular here as it is in other countries, but the market, like for what people pay for tickets here and pay-per-views and everything like that, it's more. There's more money here if you can be a name. You know what I'm saying? There's more money in boxing here.
Yeah, especially like in Vegas, and
it's a bigger market. It's a bigger market, in other words, in terms of
there's other factors involved with what the casinos pay because they want high rollers to show up, etc. So there's just a lot involved with that. But what I would love to see, this will be I'm not saying it's likely. I mean, imagine waking up one day, you go to Twitter or X, and then it's Crawford Tim Tszyu official for March. Just imagine that in Vegas. Like, how excited would you be for that fight?
Would love it.
I mean, like
that's a 10. That's a 10.
That's a 10. And if you're going to tell me that's not going to get a gate or at least subsidize what they're losing out in Sydney, they're going to get it.
As much as I think it is a good fight, and I love the fight, and I love it more than the Mel fight.
Mario?
No. But just hear me out. Does it do better numbers than Mel? Like if they were to do that fight
right now,
Mel,
Mel,
does it do better numbers
right
than
now?
Tim Tszyu, Bud. Right now it does.
You
think Tim Tszyu does better numbers with Bud than Mel?
Oh yeah,
100%.
I thought you meant Mario. Does Bud make more money?
Am I wrong, Gail?
Am
I wrong?
That's what I'm asking.
When you say numbers, what are you talking about? Are you talking about
pay-per-view numbers? The success of the overall. We could put all the measurements into one quantifiable number.
Tim Tszyu has the pay-per-views from Australia, brother.
Difference. I think pay-per-view it does a lot better. I think gate is a different question.
That's a good point.
Because Tszyu isn't going to be as much of a draw at the
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Okay. Yeah, but here's the thing. Like when it comes to Tim Tszyu, right? They already conditioned people over there to buy his pay-per-views Sunday afternoon. And the usual 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is that show up, they're going to buy it on pay-per-view now because it's not going to be in the U.S., right? So they got that money. And like that's what does Mel have to offset just the Australian pay-per-view alone, Mario?
People are going to look at Mel now and they're going to be like, that's the guy. With all due respect, that's the guy that laid an egg against Canelo.
I agree. I think that's the one, because if I asked this question 6 months ago, come on, none of y'all are saying Tim Tszyu Bud does better numbers than Mel.
Mel's fans will pay for tickets. Per person, you're making a ton more money on gate than you are pay-per-view. I mean,
where would you put that, Gail? Would you put that in Texas?
No, I'd put it in Las Vegas. You'd make So
you think even in Vegas Mel would sell tickets?
Yeah, I think his fans would sell, and that's where they're spending big dough. That's where they're you're really talking about a lot more to the gate when you've got people coming in from out of town, spending a premium on the ticket. They're boosting the tourism economy.
Yeah,
a lot more money makes the rounds for everybody's palms get taken care of. When
I'm thinking
traveling to Vegas.
Good point.
I think
Crawford, Australians will travel too.
Yeah, I'm thinking Crawford. I'm thinking Crawford though still has that buzz from the Spence fight. He was doing a lot of media for that fight too. He was on Rogan. So I think possibly Crawford in Vegas could carry that gate. I could be wrong, but I think Crawford could carry that gate based off of the buzz he got off the Spence fight and all the media. He did up until that point and thereafter. He did a really big victory lap tour after that fight. And he hit everybody.
And we can't forget about his appearance on Creed 3. I think that also really helped, even though that movie is crap.
This is an excellent debate. It's an excellent conversation.
Well, here's what I'll say, but let me say that. Hold on, Mario. Let me say this. So as far as Jermell goes, Jermell, and I will say this, Jermell Crawford, like, let's say they announce it. Maybe the initial feeling will be, really, like after what he did in the Canelo fight. But I already know what they're going to do. They're going to start saying, look, he moved up and all the way to 168. This is his real weight class. And look at what happened. They're already saying, look at what happened to Canelo against Bivol when he moved up. And then moved back down. He's still the man of his division. They're already saying it. And then you know what? They're going to show the clips of Crawford grabbing his crotch and talking shit to him when he's beating up Spence.
And they talk trash to each other.
Let me tell you something. I'm that dude. Like they're going to be talking shit. They're going to be talking crap. The back and forth. That's like there's going to be people that are going to say, I really want to watch Crawford beat the shit out of this dude.
That's true.
Like that's going to be a thing, right? Or there might even be. I think he had a different energy in a Canelo fight. He wasn't up for that fight, but this fight, it's personal. So the real Jermell's going to show up for this one, and I do think it would sell. Like I do. The only thing
come back down. You think he'd come back down though?
I don't know.
He says he is.
Maybe he would for that fight, to be honest.
Maybe for that fight. With how he cuts. We saw what happened to Roy Jones Jr.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But to answer Mario's question, if we're talking overall, I'm going to count the whole world, right? I just think Jermell Charlo has a lot of catching up to do. If a starting point is the Australian pay-per-view, right? That's something Tim Tszyu has that Jermell doesn't have, right? That's a starting point. Can Jermell really make up for that, even with all the trash talking? I don't think he would.
Yeah, it's tough.
So that's a real thing. Like that fact is a real thing.
With the gate though, because Tim hasn't fought Hero enough times. Where
I think Gail broke it down perfectly. I think that's kind of where
with the gate. Yeah, the gate. Gotta give her.
Yeah, but Crawford's carrying the gate regardless. Jermell's never been a big gate guy. Him and Casado didn't do good at the gate. I mean, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, that was for an undisputed fight, but we'll see. It is what it is. But let's go ahead and keep it moving here. Look, whether we like it or not, all right. This hate it or love it, the biggest event of the weekend, probably of the month, is Fury and Ngannou. Let me argue the biggest event of the year, worldwide anyway. First of all, a question to the panels: are you buying this fight? Number one. Second, what are your expectations? Well, what are you expecting? Are you expecting just Fury to carry him or whatever it is? I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. What are you expecting here? Gail, we'll start with you.
Oh, come on. What are we expecting? We're expecting exactly what we got from Mayweather McGregor, from every fight where an MMA fighter has stepped in to earn a big paycheck, which I do not begrudge Francis Ngannou $1 of what he's going to make. Probably more than he made in his entire mixed martial arts career to this point. He's going to make that money. I would do the same thing if I was him. I don't begrudge him. He's gotten the last laugh on everybody. However, buyer beware. Know what you're getting. This is a exhibition. This is I'm not sure I'm going to go as far to say it's scripted, but come on, folks. We all know the outcome. It happens every time, and people are always surprised. Oh my God, this fight wasn't competitive. Well, come on, no shit. There's a reason boxers are willing to take on MMA fighters, and there's a reason that the MMA fighters are willing to take a loss, because those big paychecks make you feel a whole lot better. Fury, did anyone see him? Has anyone seen what he looked like? He's trained barely, right? He's made a minimal effort to get ready. He will mess about for a few rounds and they'll take care of business. Yes, Francis Ngannou has power. Among all MMA fighters, he does have serious, legitimate power. However, you have to be able to find and land on the target for your power to have any meaning. There is not a chance Francis Ngannou is going to be able to get to Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury can wiggle that jab in front of him and move all night long. He's incredibly nimble for a guy as big as he is. Ngannou will never get to him, unless he is struck by Buster Douglas-esque lightning. Does it mean that if you want to watch it and you're entertained by these guys yapping it up and all the celebrities ringside, Mike Tyson hanging around, if you've got that kind of money and it's not keeping you from feeding your kids or paying your bills, knock yourself out. Am I going to pay for it? Oh, hell no, because I'm going to see the highlights 15 minutes after the fact. It's not going to last that long, and I got better things to do with my money.
Okay. All right. Well, Ryan, are you going to fork out some of your money to buy this? And what are you expecting here? What are you expecting out of this fight?
Hell no to the first question. And I'm expecting Fury to, it's like Gail said, just like the Mayweather-McGregor fight, he's going to dance around, screw around, dick around, maybe tickle Ngannou a little bit and just run around the ring like a clown. And then he's going to get bored and knock him out. That's what's going to happen. Ngannou has no chance. And as far as people who thought Mayweather-McGregor was actually competitive, it's always the UFC fans that are confused. They see a little pity pat, little hammer fist like this. And they're like, oh my God, McGregor dominated that round. Get the hell out of here. Same old crap.
Oh, Mayweather literally just went like this. He just walked the guy down and knocked him out.
And a lot of my friends that love UFC were just like, oh my gosh, McGregor was killing him. Like, are you guys on drugs? Like,
I don't fault them. The ones that said Maidana beat him, those were the ones that I had the problem with. Yeah, I expect that from the UFC fans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that first fight was a draw. I'm just putting that out there. You know what I mean? But I don't want to troll off. I don't want to troll off here. But let's get back on track here. But hey, Joe Beeb, let me just flat out that you're gonna buy it. You probably already bought it, okay? But I'm not even gonna ask you that. But
I thought Beeb's going to the fight.
And we talked about that. I want to elaborate. Is Tyson Fury gonna bother to carry Ngannou in this fight? Do you agree that he's going to do just the whole Mayweather thing?
No, I originally thought he would carry him, but then I said to myself, I really believe that this Usyk fight is going to happen on December 23rd. They really want to get this done by the end of the year. And the reason why I say that this fight's going to happen, because I already believe Usyk's been training. Tyson Fury, I think, has been training for a long time, even before this fight was announced, and they kind of had an inkling that the Usyk fight was going to happen. Because when I saw the pictures of Tyson Fury with the Crown Prince back in February, they said something big is happening. It kind of told us that this fight was going. The big thing was this, and it was going to happen in November. That's why I believe Tyson Fury did really want to fight Usyk in April and not have the rematch clause, because he knew that this fight with Ngannou was always going to be in November. Not November, excuse me, October. So I do think that Tyson Fury is basically training for Ngannou and Usyk right now, kind of at the same time. They already talked about bringing Jai Bataya into the camp and all that. So because of all these things, all these moving parts right now, I think Tyson may carry him for 2 rounds and then get him out of there in the third. I don't think he's going to risk hurting himself. I don't think he's going to risk any type of niggle or injury. I think he's going to just get him out of there in 3 rounds. And this undercard isn't that bad. It's okay. $80 is a lot of money for this type of event, and most people, I understand, that say they don't want to buy it. I get it, but because I'm president of the Fury Maniacs, I have to buy it. I mean, I'm just a loyal Fury fan, and I can't face my fellow, Fury maniacs if I say I didn't buy this. So I'm going to buy it. They roped me in again. All of the stuff that I've seen during the way they promoted this was beautiful, right? And then they're bringing all these people in. Usyk's going to be there. All these fighters are going to be there. Ronaldo's going to be there. Everyone's going to be there. Usyk's going to get in the ring, and then they're going to announce the fight for the 23rd. At the end of it, it's just going to be a spectacle. So I'm buying this, right? I'm expecting a pretty decent undercard, but I'm buying this for the main event to be like WWE. As Gail said, it's not quite scripted, but it kind of is. You know what I mean? It's scripted, but not scripted. There is a script, but it's not quite WWE, but everybody knows what's going to happen here. But they're just not telling you. But, that's my expectation is that this main event is going to be WWE. And if you go into it like that, then, it's not so bad.
Is Mike Tyson going to slide in with a steel chair and hit his...
Mike Tyson may come in at the end with the brass knuckles, and he may try to swing it.
Use the
he may try and swing at Fury. He may go off the top turnbuckle. You never know what's going to happen. He may do what Dylan Dennis did.
There you go.
Oh God!
And I told you Dylan Dennis was going to try and get him in that guillotine. I told you he was going to do that, and I told you he was going to get disqualified. I should have bet the disqualification in that fight.
Man, that's really smart. Hey Mario, is this? Do you agree? Like, you're a wrestling fan. Like, is this a WWE? Is this sports entertainment? Let's put it that way. Is that what we should be expecting? Even though it is a sanctioned fight. What expecting here? I mean, are you excited for like the Ryder belts on the line? Mauricio Suleiman's over there. Like, he's a non-profit. He's over there. He's not in the Shocky Foster fight. He's over there. You know what I mean? What do you make of this?
Listen, I would be excited if Ngannou had taken, 2 or 3, 4, 5 heavyweight fights, and we got to see him and he got to acclimate. I mean, this is his literal debut in boxing, and he's about to fight the lineal heavyweight champion of the world. Okay. And on top of that, add on the fact that the era we're in of super heavyweights. And I think that is the entertainment value right there. You ask what aspect of this is WWE or isn't WWE. And I think it's the circus of seeing two ginormous individuals who pack a heavy punch. For those that don't know, Ngannou actually has the record for the hardest punch measured. Now, I don't know what they measure it with. I don't understand that science, but we'll just give it to him. It sounds really good when you're promoting a fight. I think that if this was going to be like WWE, or if this was going to be like Ali, who did he fight? Inoki. If this was going to be something like that, where it was, not the way that happened, where it was supposed to happen, where it was like, like planned little intervals thing, I might even be more excited. The fact that it's supposed to be a real fight, that's what bums me out, because I know that Ngannou has no chance of being articulate in the sweet science. Does he have power? Absolutely. People keep talking about this puncher's chance, but the problem is that a puncher's chance in MMA is so much different than a puncher's chance in boxing. Puncher's chance in MMA, and I'm not shitting on their striking ability, they have so much more to worry about in terms of takedown, submissions, all that stuff, that, essentially you got guys squared up. You can throw those overhands that land like Ngannou made famous. But the problem is with boxing, you have to put yourself in positions to be able to land those shots. And I just don't see Ngannou doing it. Am I buying it? Technically, I already did. I mean, not personally. My dad already paid for it. So I'm watching it. Everybody's going to watch it.
Well, why are you doing you bought it? Why are you saying, I bought it? No, my dad bought it.
Well, I'm going to be at his house, so it's going to his bill. So it's definitely not me. I'll probably end up.
You're not going to chip in, Mario? You're not chipping in?
I'm going to probably end up paying more for the barbecue. Look at this guy. No. I'm probably going to end up paying more for the barbecue than the fight is
Someone's got to watch the fight over at NY Fights, because someone's got to write an article about it.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Woodsy's falling on the sword for us. We don't have to do shit.
Yeah, he's a good boss. But yeah, listen.
Yeah, we appreciate the boss taking care of this.
Exactly. No, definitely. But listen, I do think that there will be some entertainment value to it in terms of, the celebrities, all that kind of stuff that really doesn't, matter to us. But ultimately, I just think it's a sucks.
Now, there is a little bit of intrigue here to me. First of all, you mentioned Mauricio Suleiman. Let us make it clear to anyone watching that WBC has confirmed that Fury's title is not on the line because Ngannou is not rated by the WBC.
So
The
right
WBC gave Fury special permission to do the fight, which of course gave them the perfect excuse to make up the commemorative Riyadh champion belt for the winner. Think about this for a second. Let's just, for laughs, imagine lightning striking. Ngannou lands a lucky punch and he beats Fury. Well, he doesn't take the belt because Suleiman is smart enough to realize that would ruin the Usyk fight. Fury still has the belt. That's all good. They can go forward, unification. However, it does make Francis Ngannou the lineal heavyweight boxing champion of the world. Yes, because
let me tell you what would happen, guys.
Right?
Look.
Think about that happening. And
that would be
just for
crazy.
just a minute in my deepest heart, that would make me so entertained and laugh so hard. I could almost root for that.
No, but let me say something on that. First of all, it's not going to happen. Let me just make this really clear.
But this is the stuff those of us who are boxing heads love to imagine and talk about, because it is absolutely technically possible that come Sunday morning, Francis Ngannou wakes up as the lineal heavyweight boxing champion of the world in one fight.
But let me speak on that really quick, guys. Look, it's not going to happen. I just want to put that out there. I don't think it's going to be as funny as people think if that were to happen. Like, I'm not even. That could literally kill the sport of boxing overnight.
No.
If no, it's my turn to speak. I'm going to speak. You guys don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear it. You're going to hear it.
No.
If a UFC guy comes over and beats who guys like Beeb have been calling the best heavy, he could beat Ali, and he knocks Fury out, it would be so embarrassing to the sport of boxing. People would be like, well, I'm not going to watch. I'm going to go watch the UFC guys. They're better at boxing than the boxers. Why am I going to bother watching boxing for? That's what's on the line here. Now, it's so unlikely, right, that I don't think it's going to happen. But it would be very embarrassing if that were to happen.
It would be embarrassing. But
it would be embarrassing.
One fight can't destroy the whole sport.
Hold on. I don't want to lose my train of thought here, Joe. Would it be like, is it going to kill it? Like, no, but it would damage the sport severely. Like, it would. Right? That Wilder couldn't beat this guy. White couldn't beat this guy. Klitschko couldn't beat these were long-reigning. You know how embarrassing that would be to the sport of boxing? You know how much, like, a lot of MMA fans know they got nothing to lose here. They know their guy's not going to win, but they're hoping this happens. Like, that's just the truth at the end of the day.
Of course.
This would be the equivalent of a boxer going over there, right, and beating up John Jones in the octagon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it is, right? So at the end of the day, look, it's not going to happen. But I do hope. What I want to see. I just hope Fury doesn't carry him. Just don't carry him. Just go in there, blast him out, send a message, and you're going to piss off two fan bases. You're going to piss off the boxing fan base because they're already mad about it, right? Fight somebody real. What are you doing, right? I'm one of those, right? And you're going to piss off the MMA fan base. Like, oh, why is he celebrating? Like, he just beat, like, he beat an MMA guy. Go fight a real boxer. You know, but go ahead, Pete.
Let me just say this. I kind of get what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying if he does carry him, you don't want to give those MMA fans ammunition, like Ryan was saying. Oh, look at McGregor. He went rounds with Mayweather, and I honestly believe Mayweather carried him, but that's just my opinion.
I do too. Yes.
Yeah, but so you don't want the MMA fans to turn around and do that in this situation. But let me ask you this: do you remember when Ray Mercer knocked out Tim Silva?
I do.
Is that did that kind of damage MMA there for a while? I mean, Tim Silva was a former champ. He wasn't the champ at the time.
It was very embarrassing for them.
That was embarrassing for UFC, but it still carried on, though. It didn't really destroy. I guess to your point, it would damage the sport momentarily, but it would recover.
I think in MMA they acknowledge that there's a chance the boxer might catch the MMA fighter, knock him out.
Yeah.
But for the MMA guy to catch the boxer in boxing and knock
You're
him
right.
out, it's a whole
You're
different
right.
level. You got
It's
to admit
different.
that.
You're right.
Like, you know what I
You're
mean?
right.
Because
You're
that's
exactly
the one
right.
thing boxers do. MMA fighters can be better at you than what the one thing you do. Like
You're right.
it happens all the time in MMA. Yes, they acknowledge that could happen. Well,
Yeah.
not all MMA fans, but a good amount of them, right?
Yeah.
Even Randy Couture said, look, there was always a chance that James Toney could catch me coming in. He always, even after the fight, he said that. You know what I mean? But it is what it is, all right? But it's not going to happen, though. It's a pipe dream. You
Are
know
we
what I
going
mean?
to make our picks? Or no, I'm just kidding.
I think Francis is going to look so amateurish in there. He's going to look so off balance. It's going to be embarrassing in the middle of that fight.
Let's do a quick breakdown, D. Do a quick breakdown.
I don't even know how to break it down.
Give me the keys to victory.
The keys to victory.
I don't. First of all, I don't buy the Mike Tyson's training him thing. I think he knows he's not going to win. They might have like a silent agreement in the middle of the fight. He might. I think he might carry him, Joe. To be honest, but
do you know Mike Tyson? They're paying Mike Tyson a boatload. From what they're saying, they're paying him a boatload of money to be there. Mike Tyson, he's getting paid. He gets paid so much money just to show up at places now. His name is just. He's doing so well for himself right now. Remember after he retired, he was like had a lot of issues and stuff. He came back so strong, man.
I don't know. I think Mike still owes the IRS a buttload of money.
You think so?
Yeah, he's always said that the IRS is best employee, and he wasn't kidding. So.
That's funny.
You never know.
You
never know with the amount those guys have to pay in taxes.
Yeah,
Mike's
I mean, everybody's seen the training video of Ngannou, right?
Slow.
I mean, thank you.
Horrible.
Slow. It looks like he's punching through molasses.
Yes.
All right. And that's a problem. I don't care how much power he has. Again, he first has to find the target. And are we saying that Ngannou can land the optimal punch on Fury any more precisely or harder than Deontay Wilder did?
There it is.
And
there it is.
Fury got off the deck from that.
Go wins this round.
I guess the thing with I just want to say this. So I understand that MMA gloves are, what is it, 4 ounces, 5 ounces, 4, right? Okay, and boxing gloves for heavyweights is 10 ounces. I get that completely. However, a while back, I actually did like a review on this, and this is what people need to understand. Fury fights with horsehair gloves. So a lot of the padding on boxing gloves is in the wrist area, in the bottom. It's covering the fingers, right? But the curvature on the knuckles on a horsehair glove, you can literally feel the knuckles, right? I do think Francis Ngannou is going to be very surprised when he gets hit in the face by Tyson Fury. I think Francis thinks it's going to feel the way it feels like in sparring with those big 16-ounce gloves. And a lot of, I remember like Conor McGregor didn't even know what horsehair gloves were. Like he was asked, like, yeah, I heard that there's horsehair gloves. What does that mean? And there's a perception that the MMA gloves have less quote unquote padding. Maybe if you compare it to certain gloves, but when it comes to the puncher's gloves, the horsehair gloves, that's pretty much like landing bare knuckle almost. And that's what Francis Ngannou is going to be feeling.
I think with the MMA gloves and the boxing gloves, if you look at this part of the glove, the padding is similar. It's just when you look with you have all the other area with the MMA gloves, not that much padded, but right here there is a good amount of padding. You know,
yeah,
but the thing is because it's so light, obviously they can throw the punches quicker with the lighter gloves. But in terms of the padding, it's very similar in the knuckle area.
I guess what I'm saying, Joe, is that Fury wears horsehair gloves. That's what I'm saying.
I know I understand exactly what you're saying because I don't think those MMA gloves they are horsehair at all. I think they're all foam. You're right.
It's all foam, right. And it's going to be a different feeling that Ngannou's never felt. Correct. I'm pretty sure he's not sparring anybody with horsehair gloves. I'm pretty certain of it. Like, I'm just saying, unless Fury happens to wear other types of gloves, I don't know, but for the fight, we'll see. But look, back to boxing. And speaking of boxing not dying and all that other stuff, Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya, two promoters sounding the drums of working together, putting on events that quote unquote deliver, right? De La Hoya specifically talking about promoters. He's calling for all promoters to work together, right? And Eddie talking about letting fighters go, and because they don't want to fight the right fights, we need fights that deliver, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We'll start with you, Joe. What do you make of this message? Do you like the message? Do you think they're serious here? Talk to us.
For the right fight, any promoters will work together if it makes sense. We already know that when the fight is so big that the promoters have to work together, they'll do it. The one thing that I love that Lou DiBella called him out on, Eddie Hearn, is, it's rich that you're saying, we're not going to spend money on fights that we're not going to overpay the fighters anymore. Not in so many words he was saying, right? And Lou DiBella responded to him, "Oh yeah, it's rich coming from you because you've been doing it for years. It's easy to say that when you're spending other people's money." And he even said that, we've overpaid to get fights made, right? So you've been overpaying. I never said it. You said it. You've been overpaying fighters for years, right? You even said that Canelo made a lot of money, but DAZN necessarily didn't make a lot of money on Canelo fights. So in essence, you're saying that Canelo was overpaid when he was over there, right? So this has been kind of like the status quo for you, because you have that war chest over there that DAZN gave you, right? So when you're spending other people's money, it's easy to do that. But now, did someone say something to you? Is DAZN putting the screws to you? Are you getting that tap on the shoulder that, hey, you got to start giving us better fights? We're not going to just keep giving you an empty allowance here. So I don't know. I just think that now that Canelo's gone, now that kind of AJ's still a popular guy, but he's not what he once was. I just think the whole landscape over there is changing a little bit, and they may be tightening the belt over there with his budget. Who knows? So that's probably why he's saying that. But when he had free reign to do whatever he wanted for those couple of years, he was the biggest guy that was overpaying fighters. So you can't really criticize everybody else for overpaying fighters. And I actually hate that term, because I mean, you get what you negotiate. If you can negotiate it and you get it, then you're not being overpaid. It's
more a question of market, right?
Yeah, it's if there's a market value, if the network, is going to pay a rights fee for a fight, or if it's going to be on pay-per-view, and the promoter is going to want to get their money back or whatever, and obviously the cable companies are going to get what they get. But at the end of the day, we've heard this many times for Eddie Hearn, and we'll just have to see it put in action. That's all I get to say. It is kind of rich though, him saying that when he's gone on record saying, we overpaid guys, we overpaid guys. So now all of a sudden you're gonna, you've been guilty of doing what you're criticizing others for doing. Now you don't want to do it anymore. So who knows?
Well said. Listen, I think that so first of all, when I first started in this business as a journalist, it was right at the height of the Top Rank Golden Boy Cold War. And what I remember about that was the most frustrating comments that you heard from both sides, including De La Hoya. And I just feel like it's so much easier to say what they're saying now, right? When, Showtimes closes up the doors, HBO's closing up the doors. There's rumors ESPN, won't have boxing much longer past 2024. There are a lot of different reasons, I think, to assume that there is a change in the way that broadcasters, networks, distributors, streaming apps are planning to do business. And, the way that Al started off with PBC, which was essentially paying for time on TV, to where they are now, I think that has to be looked at what went wrong there? Like, where did Showtime go wrong in the year that they made the fights that we wanted as many? Think about it for a second. If Showtime knew that 2023 could possibly be the last year, wouldn't that make sense? A reason why we saw Spence Crawford, why they were so adamant to make Gervonta and Ryan, why we saw all these fights. Was it a going out of business though? Or was it their last chance to provide the opportunity to see what boxing can do at its highest level when the best fights are being made? There was good business there at Showtime. The problem is that it got inflated after all this time. So you have Eddie and you have Oscar saying these things, but I don't know if they'd be saying the same things if they were in those same shoes. If it was Oscar who had left Richard Schaefer and Al to start his own thing, well, Golden Boy was his, and took all those fighters, and now he was in this position, what would he be saying? You know what I'm saying? So it's like easy to say like, hey, let's work together after the fact. But, it's like, man, all these years, your actions have shown otherwise. You've gone the other route when you could have been more, open to negotiate. And now like Bob and all these guys, they're all, working together, but really it always felt like it was a means of kind of teaming up against PBC, not against them, but as a marketing strategy for them to have these fights and to be able to say, look, we're fighting everybody. Oh, you can come over here across the yard. That doesn't exist over here, blah, blah. And it makes it sound better. It makes it more marketable, but ultimately does it translate to dollars is I think the question.
Right. Gail, what do you make of De La Hoya? Hearn, they're coming out. At least to me, they're saying the right things, but is that going to translate to action in your opinion? And even if it does, is it a long-term thing we're looking at here?
When there are dollars, it makes sense. End of discussion. It's a business. These guys are businessmen. And if they can make money together, they will look aside from any of their petty little Twitter fights and insults and so forth, because it's in their best interests. And that it might happen to be in the best interest of some of the fighters, sort of a nice side effect, not really their keen main objective. It's strictly they're in business to make money. And if this makes them money, they're going to move forward. It truly is that simple.
All right. Okay. Ryan, same question to you, man. Is this all lip service, or do you think maybe that what's happened with Showtime has opened their eyes and they're gonna start giving us something here?
Well, I agree with Ringside Reporter. It was more of a going out of business sale for Showtime. I mean, they had delivered lackluster content for many years, put a lot of fights on pay-per-view that didn't belong on pay-per-view and continued to do so and produce bad numbers. And then all of a sudden in 2023, they, gave us the fights that we had been calling for, 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years. It was a last ditch effort to save Showtime sports, and it didn't go very well. So that's basically what happened there. I remember when HBO Boxing died back in 2018, we heard the same thing. Hey, let's come together and do this and that. Did they? Not really. But for the right fight, they will. So, Top Rank and PBC worked to get, Wilder and Fury for the second fight, because the second fight got delayed because Fury signed with Top Rank and then he took some stay busy fights and then they made the second fight. So it just depends. But as Joe alluded to, it's really interesting that Eddie's talking about, overpaying fighters when he paid, Mikey Garcia $7 million to fight Jesse Vargas. Yeah. I mean, like Joe said, overpaying is not exactly the term I would use either, because if you can negotiate someone to pay you $7 million, props to you. If Gervonta was able to negotiate Ryan Garcia to agree to a rehydration clause, props to him. Not a fan of it, but if you got him to sign the contract, good on them. But as far as Eddie and Oscar working together, it just depends. Oscar wasn't talking like this when, he was at the height of boxing promotion. He had Canelo, but ever since he lost Canelo and, started having issues with some of his other fighters, all of a sudden he's interested in, doing joint pay-per-views and this and that. You don't know what that means. Golden Boy's not exactly in a good place.
MAW, 5 for the live. Subscribe, share, smash that like button, folks. Much appreciated, brother. Look, here's what I'll say. As far as Showtime goes, it reminds me of like the kids that don't do shit at school the whole year. They don't pay attention to class. They're showing up late. They never do their homework. They're just slacking off. And then the last 2 weeks, it hits them. I'm going to fail? I'm not going to graduate? Oh, what can I do? Like I'll do anything, please. They're all of a sudden they're willing to stay after school. They want makeup work. I'll do whatever it takes, and they do it. And unfortunately, nowadays it works, right? But in some cases it doesn't, and they end up failing anyway. And then they say, "Wow, I did everything the last 2 weeks. I had nothing but hundreds. I did all the makeup work. I did everything. I passed the final exam. Yeah, but what about the other 6 weeks? You didn't do shit." For the whole semester, you didn't do anything, right? Here's the reality, all right? For a long time, we saw it. We saw Fox get all the good shit, right? And Showtime was getting all the leftovers. And Espinosa didn't do shit about it, okay? And it wasn't until they lost the Fox deal or Fox was not paying for as many of the fights or not being involved with them or whatever, right? All of a sudden, right, now that we're giving better fights to Showtime. And then the better fights, you were putting them on pay-per-view, right? So what should leave us on championship boxing? Like, you didn't really leave us much, to be quite frank with you. Showbox didn't really thrive like it was in previous years. I would watch it, but it wasn't thriving exactly. It wasn't the place to go anymore for a lot of prospects. And what are we getting? Rolly Romero versus an old dude? Like that's how you're hitting us, hardcore boxing fans. That's for you, the diehard. You get Rolly Romero, like, woo, like okay, I guess, right? And then you we wait all these years for Plant versus Benavidez. You put it on pay-per-view, right? So it is what it is, okay? But you can't just try to do makeup work and make up for the last few years all of a sudden. It just doesn't work that way, all right? And I think that's what happened. And I think guys hit the nail right in the head. Of course, all of a sudden, they were able to make that Crawford fight happen. And the irony of it, though, is that they almost weren't going to make it happen. Spence came out and said they wanted him to fight Thurman. And they said, no, I think I'm done with this. I think it's time to fight Crawford. So imagine we got Thurman instead of Crawford, and we don't even get that fight in the process. So, and imagine if Ryan didn't agree to the rehydration clause and the catch weight, and we don't get that fight either. Like, imagine if Bivol agreed to Canelo's terms and he stayed with his own, right? Or Matchroom, that is. And none of these fights happened. We were this close from none of them happening, even in this final, makeup year that they were trying. As far as Oscar De La Hoya, he's so erratic. I don't know what he's going to do next week. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't. Like, next week, he might be back to hashtag Lonesome Eddie tweets, and beefing with Eddie Hearn. And he might be beefing with Aram all over again. He might have an open beef with his own fighter, Ryan Garcia, again. We just don't know what's going to happen with Oscar. I just don't know. And Eddie, I mean, it sounds good, Eddie, but no offense to Carmen Serene, but some of these Joshua fights haven't, gotten me excited exactly. You know what I mean? Like we can't pick and choose, when we want to deliver in these fights. So I like the message, right? But I'm not exactly sure they're going to follow up, to be quite frank with you. I just don't. But call me pessimistic. I'm a jaded boxing fan. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? With that said, guys, make sure you visit nyfights.com. Check out Gail, Ryan O'Hara, Mario. Check out their work there. And check out the Roundtable next week on Ringside Reporter. This is D-Style Boxing. That is the show. Keep it boxing. We're out of here, guys. Peace.
Good to see y'all.